Pornography addiction. Um, in my last video, I mentioned pornography, and today I'm making this video about my story, my struggle, my journey with pornography. So we've all been there. A lot of guys, whether you're male or female, we've all had a struggle with pornography. Mostly, it's males that struggle with porn. There are some females that I've heard, stories about who struggled with it, but, mostly it's a male, dominant struggle. My first introduction to porn was when I was a child, when I was young. I actually remember the first day I actually was introduced to it. We had a computer downstairs. We used to have this computer downstairs. And my mom, she would always, put like any, good person would put a passcode, to access the internet. And so one day, she was on the computer, all day, and then she made dinner, and she turned off the computer, and she forgot to turn off the monitor, the computer itself, and she didn't turn it fully off, where the password would it would completely reset the computer, and the password, you would have to put the password back in to access the computer. I remember I watched the computer itself, her just turning the monitor off, and she didn't turn the PC, the big actual computer system off itself. She just turned off the monitor. And so she kind of she went upstairs, and I didn't think anything much of it, and I was like, okay, oh cool, I get to I'll sneak out the computer later to watch video games and stuff, because I always loved playing games on the PC when I was younger. And so sorry about that. I remember it was around 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. And so, because my mom would always stay up, and she would always read a book, and I would always have to access the stairs, because the stairs to go downstairs was right next to her room, and it would make a lot of noise. So she would when I knew, I would tiptoe close to her door to make sure, she was asleep. So when she was asleep, I would, go downstairs, and I turned on the monitor, and sure enough, I could access the internet. So I typed in, Cartoon Network games and all that stuff, and mini clip games, and I played that for a half an hour. And then, for some strange reason, I was just curious. I don't know what overcame me, and I typed in, girls without clothes on and stuff like that. And for the first time, I was exposed to pornography. And I got really I was like, whoa, what is this? This is, this is crazy. I've never seen this before, and I got really stimulated from it, and I was like, oh wow, this is, this is a new kind of drug for me. I've never had this, amount of satisfaction viewing this content that I had never, truly or had ever, thought about doing. And a lot of it was my first time ever, and it was just pictures. I didn't know about videos at the time, and so we had a printer, and so I remember I would print off the pictures off the internet, and I had to make sure, because I didn't want to make too much noise, because my mom, she was kind of a very like light sleeper, and so I didn't want to wake my mom up with the printing noise, so I would like close the door and like kind of try to muffle it out. And so I remember I printed out a few pictures with that, and I would like, you know, turn the, like, I would go on the I would exit out the windows, and I would like delete the history, and then because I knew how to delete history, because my brother and I, we actually we deleted the history on the computer. I actually watched him do it once, and so I deleted history on the computer, and I shut the monitor off, and I went back upstairs with the printed pictures, and then I remember like a day later, I was feeling like super, like, for some strange reason I was feeling guilty about it, and I was a kid, I didn't understand at the time, and so I took the pictures, and I kind of like crumbled them up and threw them away, because I for some strange reason I felt guilty, ashamed. And so later, like a couple weeks passed, and I just, all I could think about was like that stuff I had saw, like, itself, porn, and I didn't know it was called porn at the time. And so I remember another time my mom had left the monitor, she turned the monitor off, but she didn't turn the PC off itself, and she went into town, and so I accessed the computer once again, and so because I knew like what a video was, but I didn't like actually know like there were videos of porn itself, and so I typed in videos, and that was the first time I actually got to see what, an idea of what sex was. And I was like, whoa, like this is it's moving. Like, this is so much better than the pictures. And yeah, that was how I got exposed and introduced to porn. I had, and from there I had a serious just curiosity about, porn. And so after that, my mom I think she found out that I had been watching porn, and she didn't really like say anything to me. But she gave me like plenty of hints, like, that she knew what I was doing, which is scary. Like, how do moms know everything what their kids are doing? It's just a scary like thought. Moms just know. But I was like, I didn't like access it for a very long time. And a couple of years passed, and throughout those years, I would like, come across like books, talking about like sex and stuff. So I was still kind of getting myself stimulated from pornography, but like I wouldn't have like access to real porn, like on a PC. And so later, I would say around like 2013, my first year in high school, I started accessing it on a phone, because I knew like the iPhones had just like come out and stuff, and everybody was like having an iPhone, and so I would access the my brother's, or not iPhone, iPod, like the one where they had those the freaking one where they, like, you could play video games. It was basically like a phone what it is today, but it was it access internet. It would access the you could download games on the App Store and stuff like that, and it was the same thing as a phone. But I think if you all remember what I'm talking about, like, and so I would access my curiosity from my child days would be like, okay, like I really want, like, it was really like cool to see that stuff. It was I was really stimulated by it, so I said I want to access it again. So I would, I went on his Safari app, and I looked at it, and I was really scared, because like this was my brother's iPod, and I didn't want to like, get caught, because if he caught me on his freaking, iPod, I was a dead man. And so, I freaking, accessed it and I watched it, and then I said, you know what, like, this is so good. I'm so like, there's so many things I want to know that I'm gonna, at this point, I'm gonna do everything I can to, be able to sure I have access to this stuff, and that I can, stimulate myself to it. And so, I after that, I was a little freaked out, because I was looking, I didn't know how to clear history on an iPod. And so I was like freaking out, and so like finally I found like how to clear the history, and I was like, damn, like I would have been like for sure dead. Had my brother been able to see on history that I had used his iPod. And so I got, I cleared it out, and I put it back where I found it, and I freaking, I got out of his room. And so from there, whenever I got a chance to like access the internet or something, I would always like, look at pornography. And it got to a point where I couldn't live without it. I had to see it. Otherwise, throughout my day, all I would think about was like looking at porn, or like I would just be like, man, like I can't concentrate on anything else, because I just want to watch porn. And like at the time, I didn't realize it was that serious. But I was just like, I was new, I was still kind of new to it. My parents didn't really let me, access the computer a lot. And we would always, have a time limit on when we could access the internet. And every time we did, my mom and dad would always be around to watch us. And so this, like, anytime I did manage to get access to the internet, and when I had no supervision, I would watch pornography. And I didn't really start to realize that how serious it was until I would say around like my sophomore year, late sophomore year. And I realized that like I was a lot more aggressive, a lot more angry, and my view on women as a whole started to change. I know you would think it's crazy that my view on women would change immediately after I first experienced, and it did when I first experienced, but I was a kid. I truly didn't like understand at the time. But that's like when I was in high school, my brain was, it was maturing on a higher level, and I realized like my view on women was starting to change. And for some strange reason, I would be super awkward around women. I couldn't, socially interact as well as I used to. And at the time, I started, to develop this this aggressive behavior toward him. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna be like beat you up, like, oh, burst out. But I just started to like resent women. And around into like my senior year of high school, that was when I realized I had a serious problem. Pornography had completely taken over my life. It was ruining my relationships with people. Clearly, people could see, something was different about me. I was completely, at that time, I had such anger toward women. I hated, for some strange reason, I hated women. I was normalizing abuse, which, I wasn't abusing my parents, but like I would have outbursts at my parents where I'd be angry. I would be in bad moods. I had terrible anxiety. Depression was at an all-time high. I would be struggling with just trying to like focus on anything else but porn. So like my time was getting consumed. Large amounts of my days were being consumed by porn. And it's crazy. I didn't have a phone at the time. My mom didn't let me have a phone until like a couple of years until after, like, maybe 2 years after I was out of high school. And so every time I would, get a chance to access internet, I would, we had iPads at school, but I would never do it on the iPad in school because I know they had, like, the Ivy club or whatever the club, the technology club would always be monitoring the iPads, and so I was smart enough, like, not to be stupid, do it on the school iPad because, I would be, I'd be fucked. And I got one time I was really scared because I got called down to the principal's office because apparently I was looking at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I was trying to look for those sports pants, but they thought I got called. Funny story. I got called down to the office, and they thought I was looking at. They thought I was looking at Dick's, and I said no. I said I was looking at Dick's Sporting Goods. Like, I showed them even, like, where the links took me, and they were like, okay. They're like, our mistake. We just thought you were looking at, like. I was like, yo, like, no. Okay, like, I'm not gay. So, but yeah, that was the most scary experience with the iPad I had in high school. And I remember, after high school, my all-out, like, life was just revolved around pornography. I seriously had a bad addiction, and because of it, my relationships got destroyed. I lost a lot of relationships due to it. I had become more of like a constant liar because I had to lie about, not, about porn, and then I just started lying about everything, whether it was porn, about on the subject of porn or not. I started to become, I was really mean toward people, and in high school, because of porn, I was acting more of like an asshole itself. And around 2018, I got confronted finally about it. I'm not gonna mention their name, but they confronted me about it, and they said, like, yo, like, you have a serious problem, because they knew, what I was doing. They're like, you seriously have a problem. Face it. Like, you have a problem. And I was like, I said no. I was angry at the time because, nobody likes to be told up front, like, confronted about their problems. It comes down, like, I don't want to be told how to live my life. And I was like, no, I don't have a problem. And so that created more drama for me because I was so too stubborn to realize that I had a problem. I had, mental problems, and I still have mental issues to this day because of it. I would act out, like, really, like, at that point my aggression level was pretty high. And if someone confronted me about something, whether it was porn or not, I would have these bursts out at people, and I would be super angry all the time, and I couldn't explain why, and I knew, like, it was because of the porn. And my view of women, like, I hated women. I blamed women for my for my faults, for everything, like, because, like, I was watching women on pornography. Like, I hated women because I was like, this is your fault. Why the reason I am right now, the state of being I'm in, and it's so far from the truth. And your total viewpoint of women just changes. Like, you can't see them the same way as you used to. And it hurt a ton. I lost a lot of relationships because of pornography. A lot of people no longer trusted me. I wouldn't be allowed, like, a lot of the parents wouldn't allow me to hang out with their kids anymore because it got really bad. Every time I approached a woman, like, I talked to a woman, it was super awkward. My approach toward women, like, just talking to them in general, it was just really uncomfortable. It was creepy. And because porn had changed my view of women, I couldn't see them the same way anymore. And it would just be really uncomfortable just to, like, be around me when I was in general. and it got really bad. I realized, at that time I was trying to, join the military. And I failed, because, I know, true thing, I couldn't pass the ASVAB. I could pass everything else but the ASVAB. And so at that time, my mom said, yo, like, you need to, like, you're no longer, like, you graduate from high school, you're no longer a child, you're an adult. Like, I'm no longer driving you to places. Like, you're no longer, until you get a job. And I didn't want to get a job because I was so focused on getting into the military. And she said, if you don't get a job, like, you're just gonna be sitting at home all day. And I realized, you know what, I gotta get a job. So I went and got a job. And I started working at Mike's on the Corner. And that's when I started to heal. I started to heal slowly. I started, admitting to people, like, yes, I have a problem. To the person who confronted me about my pornography addiction, I told him, like, yes, I have a problem and I need to get serious help for it. And so it took a lot of rebuilding trust with people. And it didn't happen overnight. It took actually almost 4.5 years to rekindle my trust with people. And a lot of, drama happened during those 4 years. And so I was, I was dealing with a lot, but I was, focusing on my job because my job helped me focus, anything but porn. And I realized, I had a phone at the time now, and I realized, like, I have to get rid of all this pornography on my phone. So I deleted, pictures. I deleted the videos. I knew at that time now how to save videos and pics to my phone. And I was like, okay, I gotta, because I had an iPad in high school. But I mean, I realized, like, this is poison. This is destroying my life. And around 2020, when COVID hit, that was the most difficult time for me. Because I was working, one day I came to the restaurant and I heard about COVID-19, but I heard it was like, over in, like, the Europe itself, and I didn't think it was ever going to reach the United States. But then my boss told me, like, yo, the restaurant's going to be limited to delivery because of the pandemic breakout. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he's like, someone, COVID is, like, appearing in America. And I'm like, oh crap. And so I was during the lockdown, I was in doors all day. I would have my running, I would go out and run and stuff, but still I just had, being isolated, and porn creates isolation. I felt isolated a lot, and this was 10 times full for me to be having to stay isolated because of COVID. And so that temptation of watching it again just for release, for a stress reliever, it was there. And so a few times I started slipping up again. I started, watching it. And then I realized, I can't go down this, like, I can't do this. This is hurting my life. I've lost, a lot because of this. And I've become a really bad, person due to it. And it's controlling my life, and I can't allow it to control me anymore. And so I said no. So I looked up, filters, how to, block porn so I couldn't access it anymore. And unfortunately, I couldn't, none of those would work for me because I had to pay money at the time, and I was saving money, for a vehicle and for life itself. And so I would just, every time I was tempted, I would just, like, because luckily, Netflix and stuff, I was just watching Netflix or something to take my mind off of it. And every time I did, I would just go out for a run, or I would do push-ups and stuff to make myself, feel, take away, my thoughts, even access it. And so I started working, after, like, COVID started to die down, I would access, the internet for looking for jobs. And I noticed that, I started going out to work again around, I think, near the end of 2020. And because I was on unemployment, and I hated being on unemployment. I hated, not working, because it's like it's gonna be hard to get back to work when you're so used to, like, getting paid and you're not really like doing anything. So it feels like everybody's a celebrity. They're like, oh, they're getting paid, for not working. But it was really hurting the economy, and economies, everybody's, state is due to, the stimulus checks and COVID itself, because a lot of business shut down. But that's another video for another time. And so I started going, looking for work again. And I went back to work at Mike's, but it was only part-time this time. A lot changed after, he reopened officially back up, because he no longer needed me as the, the day, as a day worker. So I went, part-time at night for him, and to closing. And then I needed a job that was like full-time, stable paying. So I went to McDonald's, and I got hired at McDonald's, and I started working there full-time. And I told, my boss at Mike's in the Corner, it was a pleasure working with him, but like I was gonna work at McDonald's. And so I started working at McDonald's full-time, and I hated it. It sucked, but it was money. And so I realized, like, I can't do like a full day, like till like, doing the day shift all the way till closing to 4 a.m, Mondays through Sundays, full-time. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Mike's on the Corner, still do McDonald's. So I'm gonna do part-time McDonald's, part-time Mike's on the Corner. And so I did that. I talked to my boss, and he, to this day, like, him and I are great friends, because like no boss, would ever take someone back, after them, saying like I'm done. He took me back, and I started working like, because I didn't go to McDonald's until like 12 to 1 in the afternoon. And so like he needed a cleaner in the morning, clean the restaurant. So I would work, I took the job. I would clean from 7 to like 11. And I had bought a vehicle at that time. And so I would work from 7 to 11, and then, I'd go home, change it quickly, change in my McDonald's uniform, and go from like, 12 to whenever, like, closing, if I had closing for that day, or, till my shift ends. And then, I realized, like, I hate working, like, the food industry. It's like, it's done a lot for me, but at the same time, it's tiresome. So I went, the school, one of my local schools, they needed a janitor for COVID. And, this wasn't, or, this was going on in early 2021. So the pandemic was, the country was opening back up, but, they had the mask regulations, and they had all the COVID laws that were going on. And so I got hired. I saw a COVID job. My mom actually pointed me to a job at the school. And so I went, applied for the job, had the interview, got hired. I worked there for 7.5 months, because it was temporary due to, COVID. They needed more cleaners. And I had a lot of bad experiences with that job. I'm not going to go into detail, but certain co-workers or, co-worker was very toxic. They would snitch on my other co-workers and I about stuff, and it was generally in all a bad experience, but it paid good money, and I loved the job, but the experience with the coworker was just what made it, like unbearable at times. And the person was a day cleaner, and I was a night cleaner, so I didn't really have to deal. But it was just they would, whatever me and my fellow night cleaners didn't get done at night, she would go around during the day and like find just stuff to snitch on us for. And we'd always get called into the office, and say like, oh, you guys forgot to do this, you forgot to do that, and it just would like piss me off. So I was like, okay. And at that time, porn was completely off like my mind. I had, and so I would work this school job from 2 to 11 at night. And I told Jody, like, I want to keep doing Mike's on the Corner. So I would go, and Mike's on the Corner was like only like a couple blocks away from the school. So I would go, 2 to 11 at night, from the school, and he gave me the key to the restaurant, so I would go and clean the restaurant when nobody was in there, and it was much better because everything could set, after mopping the floors, nobody walking over your mop floors, and everything like would be a lot smoother. So I would go from 11 to the restaurant, drive down there, clean from 11 when I got there to like 3 or 4 in the morning, go to bed, get some rest, and do it all over again. And McDonald's, I was doing, because the school job, it was only a temporary position because it only needed me Mondays through Fridays, and I got winter breaks and Christmas break and spring break like all the other students off. So I was like, okay, this is like a blessing itself. So I would work McDonald's on the weekend. And I would go and tell Joey, like, I'll do the cleaning the restaurant at night, Mondays through Fridays, with my school job, but I will come in the morning and clean the restaurant. Clean the restaurant in the morning, and then go to my McDonald's job like I was before. Originally, I was cleaning at the school, and so I was working 3 jobs at once. My mind was completely away from porn. I had so much to distract me, and I was saving up a ton of money. I was living with my parents, and I was, everything was going really well for me. I was starting to rekindle relationships with people. People noticed I was working really hard. They noticed I was changing. It took a lot of work from 2020 to like 2022. And, during that time, I started getting opportunities, to travel. So I got an opportunity to travel during my school job, which I don't know how they gave me time off. Which I was like, there's no way I should be getting time off, but I got time off for a week, and so I went to a week in Raleigh. And this is the start and the beginning of my I travel a lot now today, but that's how it started. And so I went down to Raleigh, and then from there, around Easter break, my school job was, they no longer needed me. So that was what was crushing, because that was bringing the most of my income in. And so, they said, like, we no longer need you. And I was like, oh, damn. So I went to full-time back to McDonald's and Mike's on the corner. But the good thing about McDonald's and Mike's, because I would constantly fill in for people's shifts when I was working full-time at McDonald's. And I was really good friends with Jody, my boss, at Mike's. And so we would, they would give me time off. So I would go down to Myrtle Beach for a week, have a good time, come back, go get back to work. But I started, traveling a lot. And I quit McDonald's and went back, because at that I went full time with Mike's again, because McDonald's, I was tired of dealing with the toxic coworkers, the rude customers, and just being taken advantage in general. So it was good money. I mean, I would take advantage of the money, but I mean, I was just done with the work environment as a whole. And so, like, pornography was completely, driven out of my mind. I was so busy working about, like, traveling, focusing on traveling, when was my next adventure, on work and stuff, that, I really didn't think about porn. And so I did stuff to distract me. And I started to realize, like, I've seen the positive things, of my life that are finally being away from this addiction, that, finally I can, I feel normal again. I feel a lot, relieved. And, my view on women was changing. I wasn't angry at women anymore. I was like, yo, like, this is great. And so, around 2023, or no, around 22, because I went into the military around 2020, I think late 22 or mid 22. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna try the Marine Corps again, because, like I said in the beginning of this video, I was trying the military, and I was so like trying to focused on trying to get in the Marine Corps, like, oh, I wanted to do this. And now, like, it's funny how this works, but when I was like no longer interested in, like, I had no desire to get in the military, but like, I was like, I'm kind of like, getting tired of working these jobs. I want to go somewhere else and do something else with my life. I said, Dad, you know what? I'm just gonna go get in touch with the recruiter and try to do the military again. And he was like, excuse me. He tried to like talk me out of it, and I was like, oh no, like, I'm gonna do this. And so, I said, I had the mindset of like, if I fail the ASVAB, I fail. Like at least like I just wanted to try again for like one more time to see like where I could go. And so I took the ASVAB, and I had no desire to join the military. I was actually hoping I'd fail. And I scored a 75 on it. I went from a 29 the last time I scored it back in 2018 to 2022. I went from a 29, scoring a 29 on the ASVAB from 2018, and now in 2022 I scored a 75 on it. And they said like, yo, you're gonna swear in, and I'm like, wait a minute, like everything was happening so fast. I'm like, wait a minute, like what's going on here? And so I swore in. I went, and I wanted to ship out immediately, so I didn't have like barely any time. So I only had a week until I shipped out to basic to Paris Island. And a week later I ended up, I was supposed to have 3 weeks before I shipped out, but I wanted to go on my second week with a girl I knew, and a couple guys, and so I shipped off to Paris Island. I did my 3.5 months on the island, which that's another video for itself to tell you the basic experience of basic training. And then I came home for my 10 days boot leave, and then I went to MOS school, and I was there for 6.5 months of infantry training. And then I came back because I chose reserves, and I got back into my civilian life, and I would go do my military duties here and there. And during that time, I was hanging out with guys. I was making new friends. We were going on Liberty weekends and chilling with my buddy, because I had a guy named Van. We would always go and chill on Liberty weekend and like do everything together. And porn at that was completely out of my life. And so yeah, there are like a lot of negative effects with porn. Isolation, self-abuse, eating up a lot of your time of the day, because it does eat time, like it eats hours of your day just trying to find the right video. And that's the worst part, is trying to find the right video, because the more you watch it, the less stimulated you become. It creates erectile dysfunction, because you're so used to watching stuff on a screen, and it rewires your brain, like I said in my last video. Yeah, and there's so many other negative effects. Aggressive, hatred toward women, unsatisfied relationships, which definitely there's a lot of things that it was doing to me. And today, to 2023, I've done my most traveling I've ever done. And I leave in Alaska for a few more weeks. And so, I would say I'm in a pretty good place. I still am tempted to look at it. I have, I will admit, I do have my, slip-ups here and there. But then, this is why this is a journey, to stop, doing it all around as a whole. And, I could say that a lot of it is due to, frustration, not being able to find a right partner for myself. I've gone on, like, a lot of dates, but I want an actual girl I can be in a serious relationship with. And I have hooked up here and there, but like I said, because of porn, it was very difficult for me during the hookup to get to get stimulated. And so that's because I was so used to watching things on the screen. And it ruins your sex life. So I mean, maybe it's different for people, but for me, I know for most people, it ruins their sex life. So yeah, that's my story so far with this, this journey of pornography. I have a lot of work to do with it still. It's not an easy habit to break. And I'll keep you posted and updated on this incredible journey, this long, painful journey I've gone on. Of self healing, self reflecting. But I appreciate, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Punch that notification button for new video uploads. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.